Hello guys, and Scrubbar Zero, bringing you kind of the lowdown on all the new stuff for version 20. So, starting off, you can see I put a little bit of notes over there on the side, but we'll go into a little bit more detail. We've got tier 14 and 15, which even if you're a pretty advanced player, those are going to be a struggle to do any climbing on. We got relics, which also plays down a little bit lower down. So with the relics, once you reach wave 4,500, you can get a relic from those, and some of them kind of range from completely useless by the time you get them to actually incredibly useful. So, grab them. Why not? If you can't, just do what you can. And I did call this one. We are getting a 5th milestone pass from that little leak that we got. It was like tiers 14 and 15. Well, maybe there's going to be another milestone pass that's going to come out for that, and that definitely showed up. Speaking of relics, that was something that was actually kind of hinted at from the little bit of a leak where you could see on the global leaderboards, and it said Avatar as well. So Avatar was just basically like, what were the tower skins that you can slap on for your avatar to show off. Right now I'm in a farming match, so I can't show off what I have, but it's definitely different than the actual skin that I'm usually running on for my tower. Light speed shot. Now this one's a really big one. Basically, it removes all of the bullet animation, where it has to travel to an enemy. So no matter what range an enemy's at, as long as it's within the shooting range. And you can kind of see it now where you get like this little blip animation right off of the enemy versus this traveling animation. There's some really good things that this new mechanic works around, and overall I would say it's a bug fix, but it also increases a lot of functionality too. So first to go into it, one of the added functionalities that you get with light speed shots is you're no longer going to have your shots blocked by bosses, so you can actually shoot like enemies that are on the complete opposite side of a boss, then normally the boss would take the hit, and now you can keep those ranged away from actually being able to shoot you or any other enemies from approaching the bosses, heading towards your tower. That's a super helpful one. Just in general, trying to keep down chips. The other one is there was an issue where if your attack speed wasn't high enough, you wouldn't be able to reach enemies at really long ranges. So that also works around where you don't need to worry about that as much as soon as you get that research. The research time is fairly reasonable on it, or at least I felt it was. I think it was like 7 hours, 8 hours, something like that. Maybe it's less because I was judging off the labs that I have. I think I've got the lab speed at like 80, which is somewhat unnecessarily high, but I have it, so I'll use it. Uh, yeah, so that's one of the big things. The other big bug that this feature solves was when bounce would bounce off of an enemy and chase a fast enemy. Sometimes the fast would outpace the bullets, so it'll actually make sure that those bullets reach a fast instantaneously now, which is super useful. So at this point, I would say that there is absolutely no drawback whatsoever to using bounce, maxing it out. At least not to any extent that I've seen so far. So go to town with light speed shots. It's an absolutely amazing lab. Get it as soon as you can. Uh, excuse me. I just had dinner and I burped a little bit. If you have to save for it, like a little bit, that might not be too bad. But like a lot of things, if it's if it's a little bit of a struggle, maybe you might not want to get it. Yeah, that's just kind of my call on that. Next one is there's a card now that lets you. I think it's you have to get to wave 40 or 50 in tier 14, which is really difficult to do, but it's doable, especially with if you luck out with a lot of Defy Discs. You'll be able to reach that point and get this card, maybe just to make the whole experience easier if you're having a hard time. Maybe just do intro sprint just so you can get through the whole process a lot faster. That might be an ideal way to get through it. But yeah, so that'll add another card that you can basically upgrade. So if you've got max cards already before you get this, you're not going to be able to buy any new cards. But as soon as you hit that milestone, then it unlocks that new card that you can now start to pull. I'm somewhat tempted to say that this might push Chain Lightning a little farther ahead of Inner Landmines as far as usefulness. I'm really torn on that because it's like on one hand, it's like yeah, you can delay the enemy the boss approach, which should be super helpful for killing bosses, but at the same time, getting shock at its full value on bosses, and because you're hitting so many enemies per second, even though that crit card has a very low chance, you're probably getting it like fairly often, like times per second, to proc, especially if you've got attack speeds that are relatively high. Which, if you got to T14 and you got that card, you probably have a fairly good attack speed as is. So, if you can get that ultimate weapon card, I would say that that might push that Chain Lightning a little farther ahead as far as usefulness than Inner Landmines. If you don't have the card, maybe Inner Landmines is the way to go. And this is a great time for my puppy to chew on one of her chew toys. That's really crunchy. Next is Tower Range Control. So I think this is a great step in the right direction. It doesn't solve all of the range issues. So, namely, there's issues still with Shockwave. You can't modify that. That's another one that I think if this feature is implemented just the same for Shockwave, that would be absolutely amazing. But when you open your menu, here I'll just this, and you go to said lab. Let's say go down to range. So when you click on here, when you're normally able to research, it'll give you a slider plus or minus. But right now I have something else that's researching. So, and I think I need to be outside of a match to be able to do that. Obviously, right now I'm in a farming run, so I can't. But that's where you would go to be able to access that. New look on Poison Swamp. So now instead of bubbly green, we've got this. Give me a second. I'll open that up. Boom. There we go. So now it's a bunch of little green squares within the bowl that pops up. So now you guys can see what it looks like. But since I'm farming and I'm not quite at the point where I need it to extend the run, I'm just going to keep it turned off. Let's see. I'm actually going to talk about changes for the tournament tier for namely champions. So this should be live at this point where tournament for champion is going to be tier 11 plus instead of tier 10 plus. So that's going to make things, especially on the lower end, or people that aren't able to push really high levels of waves in tournament, it's going to make the lower end extremely competitive. For better or for worse, but they are going to be short runs, which will be nice. Yeah, I think with that change, it's going to make any sort of attempt to build up an HP pool with Deathwave, I think it's going to make it just ludicrously difficult. I don't see how anyone's going to be like wanting to do it or even try to do it at this point. I suppose it's possible, but I would not want to be the person who's trying to attempt that. Yeah, so I think that that change is gonna just kind of reinforce the fact that effective hit point builds are just not nearly as useful as they used to be. Uh, so it's a good thing or a bad thing depending on where you're at. If you invested a lot in Deathwave, it sucks. Like I invested a bit, not the best, but you know I did all the labs. Well, maybe not all the labs. My cooldown I kind of left at was it 2 minutes and 30 seconds or 40 seconds, something like that. So it is what it is. It's kind of the dead in the water ultimate weapon, at least as far as I can tell right now. Especially when you're like when I got into champion, that was the tool that helped me push a lot higher into tournament. And now it's just I don't see that avenue as being a feasible one anymore. Doing things that are going to push your damage higher are going to get you a lot farther, as well as like good crowd control. Um, bug fixes. So we got a bunch of bug fixes. Um, so just some ones that just to rattle off. There was some exploits that got plugged, and I'm super happy about that. Um, because one of them, if you had one of them, then it kind of was like, well, do you take one of these exploits or the other? You know, there was no like a good winning situation in that for some players out there, so they would choose one or the other. Um, that one's gone. Super happy about that. Actually, for both of those, so that's a huge step in the right direction. Um, let's see. We got some improvements, so the force saving or any of the autosaves that functions a lot better than it used to. Let's see. I'm just listing off the ones that are actually worthwhile to mention. There's quite a few of them. I guess there was an issue where multi-shot might be like not targeting everything correctly, and you might be extra targeting one enemy, so that might be useful in general. And it seems like it's probably true as far as like being able to manage large groups of enemies seems like it's a lot easier. So some of that might be just the light speed shots, or you know, it might be also a little bit of that fix for the multi-shot. Uh, I guess a little bit of changes to the mail panel, so it's a little bit easier to read. Eh. There was one, I guess, where if you used to reload your game, it would despawn all your protectors, but it seems like that kind of workaround, trying to get around protectors, is no longer a thing. So if you've got protectors on the map, you're going to get stuck with them when you reload. And translations for and updates to add Arabic. Other than that, that's kind of the rough lowdown on everything in the new version. I think I covered most of everything. And then, yeah, one of the things that I didn't mention um, is that not only do you get the relics from um, the 4,500 wave milestones, but you can also get them for collecting up a certain number of points or medals during any particular event. So that'll be a nice way to accrue some extra ones. And then as you go higher in the tiers, you'll also get higher ratings of or better relics. So instead of doing like a 2 or 5% or 3% or something like that, it'll give you more of like a 10% bonus to something. So there's definitely a large incentive to want to get those. I kind of wish that they were like even across all of them, but it is what it is. Anyway, I hope you guys found that useful. There's a lot of new things, and I'm still on the fence about like, okay, in our landmines or chain lightning, I'm probably gonna invest a little bit more into chain lightning myself. Oh hey, I haven't even talked about where I'm at. So, um, version 8 was version 19. On my particular account, I got Black Hole and Golden Tower 2 100-second cooldown. I've got the max bonus maxed out just for Stonewise. I haven't quite gotten the lab finished out, as you probably saw a little bit earlier. That one's still cooking, but otherwise, I got the stone bonus maxed out. Duration, I have it matched with Black Hole, so it should be about like 42 seconds, 43 seconds, but the durations, or duration for Black Hole is maxed out. So, coin bonus has definitely taken a big jump. I'm not sure if I'm going to push the duration for Golden Tower up to its max just because of how ridiculously expensive it is. I'll probably just kind of finish off with the Golden Tower bonus as one of my econ lab slots. I'm just gonna have one econ lab slot at this point, but I think everything is about good enough, and I'm kind of pulling back a little bit from econ just because of the increase in difficulty. So I'm not going to be going as many waves, and so I'm not going to be benefiting from leveling that workshop as as dedicatedly as I have been in the past. I'm probably going to diversify a little bit into raising my base damage a little bit much, and just kind of try to get all the free ups up and running as soon as possible, and then just kind of filling the gaps from there. And you know, anything else that I slap onto is it basically the stat denial for health. Um, I'm not going to be pursuing it as heavily as I did before. It's still good, but yeah. Other changes. Smart missiles. I got the bonus a lot higher. So I'm at 403 times. It's at 30 seconds. I still need to work on amp. I've got one of those labs rolling, so that will help out a lot. And then I'm probably going to be pumping up a bit in this version of Chain Lightning, especially the chance initially. And then this is a little inflated because I have the perk, so half of that is what I actually have. I'll probably be increasing that a little bit, just because so I can make it a little bit more use out of the ultimate weapon crit card. I think that'll play really nicely with that, at least for like more of your sustained, you know, good oomph damage. Yeah, I think those are going to be kind of my big goals, maybe a little bit into Spotlight as well. Right now, my angle is 50 degrees, and this is inflated because of the labs, but I think it's something like 24 times, I think is what I've got. So, somewhere around there. Yeah. So we'll see. If you guys are interested in seeing more progress as far as like where my account is at, you know, feel free to drop a comment on that. Definitely subscribe, because I think in the future, if you stay long enough, you'll get a little bit of kind of a sneak peek I think in about a month when I get my next paycheck, I think it'll be a lot better, and I'll probably be looking at maybe something along the lines of a giveaway, and we'll see how all of that plays out in the future. I'll release probably more news then, and we'll catch you later.